Hey, this is Gerd Handel, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to the Inner Light Project. My name is Gerd Handel and today I have an interesting guest with me who is empowering women within business. Lisa Pongrass is the founder of Canvas and Hide, a luxury handbag company in New York, and believes it's never too late to follow your dreams. Lisa, I'm so grateful to have you on the show and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bless you. I'm just so excited to talk to you today, just our conversation before and just learning more about how you transformed your life.
Wow, yes. It's so funny when things become normalized, it's easy to forget what things were like before. So I forget I transformed my life because it's so normal now. And I think I'm going to have to transform it again after this pandemic. Constantly pivoting, constantly moving.
Yeah, there's so much going on right now. And just like we were saying, everyone's being asked to come home back to themselves. And I just think, yes, there is so much heaviness, but there's so much light as well in the world.
I feel a little bit guilty that my daughter's home for college, from college, sorry. And I am loving every second of having her with me. We've been making cooking videos together and just enjoying. I'm teaching her how to drive. We're lucky enough that we're allowed to drive, but we don't see anybody. We just get in the car, and that's great. There's no traffic on the road. Yeah.
Oh, bless. It's a perfect time as well to learn.
It kind of is. We just go to the car park, and there's just no cars there. And she's got her license. She just now needs the driving hours in, so that's been fun.
Nice. So, Lisa, I'd love to talk about what your life was like before Canvas and Hide.
Okay, so I lived in Australia with my husband, my daughter, and my stepkids, and I had what I guess most people would think is a pretty ideal life. I had a beautiful home and very, very close family. I was happily married and a young child. We had a boat and lots of cars, and life was pretty magical at the time. And then 2008 hit, and we sadly had investments that fell apart. So we had to sell our home and change our lifestyle. And I remember saying to my husband after we sold the home, let's try something different. Let's just go away for a year and have a sea change, which we did. And we came to the United States.
Wow. And so what led you on to creating the brand?
So the brand actually was born out of, sadly, the dissolution of my marriage. My husband, after many years living in the United States, really wanted to go back to Australia, and I wanted our daughter to finish her education in the United States. She was 8 when we came to America, and I just wanted her to finish. I didn't think it was fair to move her back. So we had a very different idea of where life was going to go, and it was very sad. It's still very sad to this day that life took us on different paths. So when he left, I found that I didn't have the legal ability to stay in the country because I was on a spousal visa. So I really didn't know what to do. And then someone suggested that I start a business and I could be in the country on an E2 investment visa. So actually, originally I was going to start a candle business. Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't do that. I went down a few rabbit holes of trying to work out what I was going to do with that. And then I can tell you, actually, no one's done it. I wanted to start a candle business called Icondle, making iconic candles of things like the Eiffel Tower, the Empire State. I
Wow.
thought, imagine if you go to a city, the uh, what's it called in Rome? Oh my gosh,
Oh.
the Colosseum. The Colosseum. I just thought. I remember the days when you used to travel and bring home a little souvenir of a country, and I just thought it'd be really nice to have a souvenir that was like a sculpture of a particular iconic landmark that was a candle. Anyway,
Mm.
anyway, luckily I didn't do that, and my love of handbags took over, and Canvas and Hide was born. I wrote a 56-page business plan, which I'd never done before. Thank you, Google. And came up with just this idea of making beautiful, luxury, sustainable, high quality leather goods in the United States. And I took it to Australia, the business plan, and they loved the idea and gave me my initial 4 years and said, knock yourself out. And I came back and I started it. And the rest sort of feels like, I don't know, it feels like I was on a path that I didn't even know. I didn't actively create it. It was just a path that I was going down. And I can't even put it into words. It was like I was on autopilot and something else was driving it.
Hmm. I hear you. I relate. I absolutely relate. Because I was, as we were talking earlier, I was a journalist and I always thought that was it. That was my life. And I was going to follow being a health journalist. And then I hit my mid-20s and then I just had this massive awakening. It was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And it was, I was made redundant. And then I had a cancer scare that woke me up. And I remember walking out the hospital saying, I want to heal. I want to make a difference. And it just led me on this journey that I had no clue about. And I've ended up becoming a life coach and empath leader. And it's like, how? But
It's so the opposite when you say you had a cancer scare that woke you up. I mean, a lot of people get sick and become the opposite. They sort of become sad and introverted and they're not awake from something like that. It's amazing.
yeah, don't get me wrong. During the process when I thought I had it, oh my God, I thought I was going to die. So I was drinking, going off the rails, like, screw it, life happens, whatever, and like buy everything I could ever think of. And then when they told me they misdiagnosed me, I just remember just like crying and saying thank you. And just hearing this voice from within saying, like, it's time to heal. And I thought, is it me? Am I going cuckoo? What is this sound? And I feel like with yourself as well, like, we always think we have a plan and we're going to follow that route, but actually, is that really the plan, or is there something bigger that we're here
I mean,
to?
if you had told me when I lived in Australia that I would be living in an apartment in Brooklyn, Dumbo, as a single mom with my daughter, designing and creating handbags, I would have said, what planet are you from? That's so far removed from the life I used to live. And yet it feels so seemingly natural. It just sort of happened. I can't even put it into words, but something was guiding me into that journey. And it feels like it wasn't me. I'd love to take all the credit. I mean, obviously I have to take the credit for it because I did it, but there was like, I'd never run a business. I'd never designed a bag. It just came. Something was helping me.
I almost feel like it's like we were guided to come back home to ourselves and our gifts and our talents that we kind of ignored for so many years.
That's so true. Very, very true. And look, I have to say, I didn't actively ignore anything. I lived a life that I was really happy in. I didn't know what I was missing out on until I started doing it. And then, of course, now I feel like I'm missing out on that family life that I had before. But I feel so much more full of accomplishment. And it's just an empowering situation to start your own business and to run your own business. And you're completely in control of, well, actually not in control right now. COVID-19 has taken control out of everybody's hands. And what an amazing experience that is. Just riding a wave that you either drown or you come out the other side.
Yeah. It's
From a
almost
business
like, yeah. It's almost like it's like we're coming back to our childhood, where we didn't have responsibilities for anything, and we just, one day ran around the room, la la la, the next ran in the garden.
I wish it doesn't feel like that for me. I feel like I understand what you're saying about being free, except I still have to pay my rent and money coming in, and I'm negotiating, and the government have said that they will help small businesses, but for me that's yet to present itself. So I'm just hoping and praying that will happen. So but what you say is so true. Letting go of that fear is paramount in being able to survive.
Yeah. I think as well, because this society, like from a young age, it's almost fear-based. And like when I was in the news industry, everything is fear-based. And
Everything.
like I used to always think, why don't they have positive news?
I've always thought someone should start a news station that just dwells on the positive.
Yeah.
I think someone's done it. I think there is something out there now that's like happy news.
Yeah, I feel like loads of podcasts now, that's what they're about, right? They're all about the positive sides. And
sorry, no, I said absolutely we need positive news, and you're right, podcasts offer that to people on a whole different level.
Yeah. And I feel like what I was just saying before, that we've lived off fear for years, right? Like everything has been fear-based, our society's been fear-based, and now it's about shifting away from that fear and into the light and into the love.
Love, you're absolutely right. And there is so much love in the world. I mean, whenever I feel sorry for myself because my business looks to be struggling right now, and I don't know whether retail will ever be the same again, which is not a bad thing, actually. It needs to shift, and people's ideals about things, I think, need to shift as well, which I've been banging on about for 2 years now. But whenever I feel sad for myself, I think about the people who have nothing, people in India and Africa, and the homeless people in New York. And then I just don't ever feel sorry for myself again. I just feel such empathy for all of those really suffering right now.
Yeah.
That's just killing me. I do feel a little bit of guilt that I sell luxury handbags. I know that there's a place for everything in the world. And I do know that I've been really banging on about, if you go to my website, I mean, I say buy once and buy well. If this whole idea about fast fashion has been something I've been a little upset about for years. And even I'm wearing things that I bought when I was 19 that are still fantastic in my wardrobe. And I've been saying that. I've brought my daughter up to feel that. Just buy one good thing a year, or two good things, rather than 20 things from Zara or H&M or Brandy Melville that get thrown in the trash.
Yeah, I relate. I 100% relate. I just remember, like, when we were growing up, fashion, there was only like 4 seasons. Now I don't even know what season it is anymore.
Look, I think from a business perspective, not from an inner light perspective, but I think that is definitely going to change. The internet and shopping online has changed the seasonality of indent orders. So now it's buy now, wear now, because of internet-based purchases. People buy something, they want to wear it straight away, whereas department stores have dictated when things go on sale, and when things get delivered into store has previously been about manufacturers making with a lot of lead time so that they could go on sale. That's going to change. That's already changing. I don't know what the future is for the big box stores and department stores. I really don't know. I know wholesaling is very difficult right now. There's just not enough margin when everyone's going on sale.
Yeah.
So I think direct to consumer is the way. But from my brand, for example, I think because my items are high on the pricing scale, people don't want to buy an emerging designer that they haven't heard of unless they touch and feel it. When I get people in stores who touch my product, feel the quality of the leather, the suede lining, the zip, the hardware quality, then they're happy to pay the money because they feel it and they feel it. But online, and to just look at a picture, it's so easy to make garbage look good. It really is. You're a journalist, you know. And I think people have been burned with merchandise that they thought was nice and then it arrives and it's not. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is there. I offer, full refund, money back guarantee and all of that, but it's hard. People buy Gucci or a brand that they trust.
Hmm.
I guess I just need to be around long enough that people trust Canvas and Hyde.
Yeah. Well, I think I relate with what you were saying about, just having like one or two bags, because like the whole fashion industry has, a lot of things have become cheapened, and like even like myself years ago, like I'd buy like 10, 11 handbags and they just stay there. Whereas now I have like a few, but they're expensive, but they
And you
last
love
long.
them. You,
Yes.
you probably love those few that you have.
Yes, I do. And they feel so good. And like, yeah, it's a different vibration. I think we can collect so many things, but it is about like you said, the one-off pieces that you can use for like 10, 20 years. Like myself, I've got stuff since I was like 17 and I still wear them. And I love it.
It's not about you putting something on and thinking, oh, this old thing. It's about you putting something on and thinking, this has been with me my whole life and we've had so much fun together and how many journeys have we had? Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the memory of going to a concert, a memory of like meeting somebody
Oh,
wearing that. Yeah.
your first boyfriend, your first kiss. I have a jacket. It's Yves Saint Laurent. And it
Hmm.
was a lot of money back when I was in my 20s, I think. And I still wear it now and I get complimented on it whenever I wear it. And I feel like, yeah, I got this. I have something that young people love now that they can't get, that I'm making fashionable, and I made it fashionable 20, 30 years ago. Love
Wow.
that. It's a good feeling.
It's the journey. Yeah.
It's also the fashion industry. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but they make up a very large percentage of the Earth's waste in landfill.
Really?
Yes, because think about it,
Wow.
polyester and fabrics that don't break down, and people buy so many things that they throw away in a season or two. And
Hmm.
where do those things end up? They end up in the ground, in landfill.
Wow. So what are some of the harmful materials in handbags out there?
So there's a big trend at the moment, a push for vegan leather bags, which is pleather. Pleather is fake leather, which is PVC, which is plastic.
Oh.
So plastic doesn't break down, and in fact, it doesn't wear. So there's a big argument for and against. And I completely understand both sides. One thing about leather is the more you wear it, the better it looks. It breaks in. It doesn't peel, for example, and it doesn't just break. It gets softer and more worn. And I think that's a really good look when something is like a pair of leather shoes that feel lived in.
Hmm.
PVC doesn't do that. Doesn't have those properties. It peels and then it just falls apart. So whilst on one hand I understand you're helping to not use a byproduct of the animal industry or that, getting rid of an animal, you're creating more waste and more pollutants by manufacturing plastic. I think as long as there is a thriving meat industry in the United States, my take on it is that using the hide or the skin is actually using the entirety of the animal.
Hmm.
And I do understand what vegans say about the fact that, and I actually have an opinion that it's too big. We do kill too many animals. We there's a lot of waste, and I think we need to look at that. But definitely, when I source leathers, I'm looking for the humane killing, which there's no other way to put that. And there are certain abattoirs that are better than others, and also good disposing of wastage when you make leather, for example, and when they tan a hide, they use chemicals and they have runoff, and you need to know that the company that you're buying the leather from are environmentally sound and are adhering to the waste that, so for example, in certain places around the world, not mentioning any countries, they just run off their chemicals into waterways and
Wow.
don't really care about the environmental impact. But I do know that the tanneries that I use in Italy, they're really conscious of how they dispose of their waste, and they win awards for it. German and leather manufacturers are a lot greener than certain Asian countries.
Wow. I never realized that there was so much waste from the handbag industry. I never really questioned it.
Well, it's the leather. It's the leather.
Yeah.
And then of course the colors and the chemicals that are used to create different dye lots and different thicknesses, and there's so much that goes into it. There's a leather that I've started using. It's called Veg Tan, and it's a really wonderful product, and they tan that with a vegetable tanning, so it's much more natural, and an oil. So it also has the qualities that it lasts, it just wears really well. You can scratch it up and then buff it out. It's beautiful leather. Yeah. There's a lot to tell you about leather, but this is more about our inner light.
Yeah, it's fascinating because like a lot of people right now won't have a clue that the bags that they have, like there's a lot of chemicals in them, and that's why it's so important to be aware as well of what we're wearing as well and what we're using on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean I'm following closely. There are companies that are trying to come up with alternatives that are not plastic based or chemical based. Pineapple skin, for example.
Oh wow.
Yes, they're making like a fabric out of pineapple skin that's all natural, and it's just very expensive. The technology is so new that anything that's new and innovative is going to cost more. So I wonder if people will spend more on a bag of pineapple skin than they would on a beautiful leather handbag.
Who
Don't know.
knows?
Cut down on waste. If we're not making, I just think we've become a race of people who overconsume.
Yeah.
I'm a lot older than you are, but I just remember growing up, I had my Sunday best. It's very English, I think. And that was the outfit in my wardrobe that was wearing to Sunday school and to church every Sunday. And it was such a joy on a Sunday to get dressed up in the Sunday best. And I had one nice pair of shoes and one beautiful outfit and not a whole lot. I think we've gone so far the other way.
Yeah.
You look at these people on reality shows and they have, reams and reams of the same shoes in different colors and the same bags and very expensive handbags in all different colors. And that's what our millennials look at, that and they aspire to have it. Really not great.
I relate with what you're saying because even with me growing up, like we were saying about the season things, you had like some things for like summer, some things for spring, but you didn't have like excess amount of clothes. Now I think there's just this obsession to buy like 50 pairs of something of the same color for that season, and it's you can still buy a few amazing things. Yes, they might be a bit more expensive, but they will last you for decades.
Yeah I wonder if people will care when this is all over where things are made.
Yeah,
I would so love to know from your listeners if that is even going to have a bearing on someone's purchasing habits.
I feel like we're getting there, but it's going to take a lot more time. I feel like in the last maybe 5-6 years, people are becoming aware, but it's not happened on a global scale.
Right. I find I was perusing the internet the other day, as everyone's doing on this lockdown, and I wanted to buy something, and I went onto their website and I couldn't find where it was made. So I went to every page and read all the fine print, and it didn't say any point of origin anywhere. So I emailed them. I said, hi, just wondering, could you please tell me where your products are manufactured? And I never got a response. So
Oh,
I think that's interesting. I'd love for us to be much more transparent. I mean, it's everybody's individual choice. And if your purchasing is dictated by price, then understandably it's going to be made in Asia. But it would be nice to be given the choice to decide, because we know where something is actually made.
yeah. Do you know what? As you're saying that, it reminds me of my childhood. Like, you would buy like a jumper or something, or like a t-shirt, and it would last you, and it wouldn't bubble for
It
like,
wouldn't.
right?
No.
Now you buy something and it bubbles within like a week or two. It's bizarre. The quality
Well,
has completely changed.
probably because when you were a kid, you'd buy something that was cashmere or wool or a wool blend, but it was beautifully made and just with a better fabric.
Yeah.
Now polyester pills, and so does there are different grades of wool, different grades of cashmere. Yeah, I agree. I hate that.
I have like some jumpers when I think I was like 15. I've still got somewhere. And I tried them on the other day and I was like, this doesn't even have a bubble on it. What's that about? And it's been locked away for like years. And it's just fascinating that how things, and I often hear this from my parents as well. They're like, they don't make things the way they used to. And I'm like, yeah, I know what you mean now. It's true.
It
Like
is true.
the quality of
And
clothing has changed.
in a way, I try to work out where that came from, and it came from price. When I started this business, my intention was to have everything made in the United States. And at the moment, I'd say I manufacture in Italy and in the US. And the moment, I think 40% of what we make is handmade in the United States. But I realized why so many companies took their manufacturing offshore. It's so expensive. It's
Mm,
very hard to compete when we have to pay $15 and up an hour, which, by the way, is not a lot of money
mm,
um, for our staff. So even without the cost of shipping, because it's obviously made here, and so we don't have to import it or duty, it's still cost prohibitive. It's still more expensive. And I found that to be a really interesting lesson in starting this business. I didn't realize, and now I totally get why companies took their businesses offshore for their
yeah.
price.
As well, like I think it's like when I think about it, like before the quality used to be a lot higher as well because it was in the same country. Now it's you don't know where it's being created or who's creating it. Whereas
Sure.
here, everything like, the Industrial Revolution, like not the Industrial Revolution, but like later on, like you had like, factories and stuff
Absolutely.
building. Yeah. And it had a different, like people often say to my parents, which I find it's really funny. You've probably heard of Marks and Spencer's, right? It's like
Absolutely. M&S.
yeah, everyone's known of M&S, and M&S were known for their quality of like jumpers. You could send them off to India or somewhere, and that person would be like
Yeah.
complimenting that jumper for 20 odd years.
I remember their underwear. Their what singlets? What do you call them? Undergarments. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the slips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what people used to talk about, and now it's so hard to find that same quality.
Well, you can now, but it's like so
It's
expensive.
it's like thousands and thousands.
Exactly. And the other thing for me about retail, Marks and Spencers and Selfridges and Harrods and all of those great stores, but all of the retailers for me seem to be carrying the same merchandise. And it's certainly globally, I was traveling obviously to Italy, to my factory there, but then to Australia and then stopping off in Singapore or Hong Kong. And I would notice in every airport and every department store, they would carry the same Balenciaga, Celine, Chanel, Gucci, Fendi, the same thing. So I, as a handbag manufacturer, I would think, well, if I'm sick of seeing this Celine bag or Chanel style in every store, in every city on the planet, are the consumers. And I wonder about that because it used to be years ago that you would fly to New York or London from Australia or fly to Australia from London and find something that nobody else had.
True.
And you take it back to your city, and then people say, oh, love your bag, love your coat, love your shoes. Oh yes, I got them in London, or I got them in New York, or I got them.
Yeah.
Whereas now, because of the internet and department stores carrying the same merchandise, everyone can have the same thing. And for me, that takes a little bit of the fun out of fashion.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you can go to anywhere in the country, like, or even in the world, and it's the same brand doing the same thing in the same place. And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, I know what you mean. Like we'd go to like a different city and you'd pick up something amazing and it'd be like, wow.
I have to say, India, you probably can still pick up something. I've
True.
things I bought in India years ago that are nowhere, and I love them. And just beautiful pieces of jewelry, and yeah, that's beautiful. And Morocco, beautiful things in Morocco. Mhm.
But I think that's why people are going online, because they're looking for something different. They're looking, they can't see it in the shop, so they're trying to find it online to see something that
Yeah,
resonates with them.
yeah, that's right. Except that for businesses and small businesses, I know so many of my contemporaries and people who have either apparel brands or handbag lines. You can have the best product in the world, and you get lost in the sea of products online. It's very hard to get traffic to your site if people don't know about you, and it's very hard to get recognition and to get someone to know about you unless you spend a ton of money in advertising. So
Yeah.
that's also got its own challenges, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's just the way things are, like, has changed in society as a whole as well. Like, just as we were saying before, like there's been everything's so quick now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, it's not the same, is it? Where like before you could touch the handbag and you could, oh, you're right. Everything is,
Whenever I say to my daughter, like we we recently just bought, it's quite cold out in the Hamptons right now, and we recently just bought a little heater. So we went to, I think we went to Kmart or Target, anyway, one of those big stores, and we bought a heater, and it wasn't, it was $80 or something. Honestly, we pulled it out of the box, and can I swear on your
yeah, go
podcast?
for it.
It was the biggest piece of shit. It's plastic, and it smelt like some piece of crap. And of course it was $80. It wasn't $480. Um, but I just was surprised by how bad it was. It was like a Barbie heater. I felt like we were buying a toy. And then it just, I shook my head, and again, it didn't say country of origin. I didn't look on the piece, but I looked on the box, and it didn't say where it was made. But it did the job. And for a lot of people, $80 is a lot of money to spend on a little heater. So I'm not quite sure what the answer is. I wish I had more of an answer.
Do you know what? It actually, you've heard of Selfridges, right?
Yes, I have.
You reminded me there was a show created, God, it must have been about 5-6 years ago, and it was how Mr. Selfridge actually created Selfridges. So he was an American that moved to the UK,
Yes.
and he would bring different things from all over the world into that shop. So you would always have a unique piece, and that's what made them so successful, was having those unique pieces. But now everything is the same. There's no
It's true. Yeah.
quality. It's that uniqueness where, like, you would go to the market or something and you'd always find something unique, but like anywhere where you go now, it's all the same. But in those days it was having
Yeah.
that unique, yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, I think that's quite recent. That I remember, sadly, Barney's have gone
Oh
by
yeah.
the wayside in New York, and it's just tragic. But I remember 25 years ago, Barney's had a selection of really cool, edgy, modern designers that Bergdorf Goodman didn't have. So there was an exclusivity to their stock, which made people from New York go there. The same with Bergdorf's. Bergdorf's were always sort of that little more sophisticated buyer, and they had beautiful things from around the world that weren't anywhere else in New York. And now, I don't know, I think companies, to sustain themselves, they had to supply everybody.
Yeah, things have yeah, I definitely have noticed that. And I do remember, God, probably 10 years ago, when I used to work for one news channel in the Midlands, and there was this beautiful like area of like cute shops that sold the most unique things.
Mhm.
And they all disappeared when the massive mall was created. And I remember thinking, but those were the best shops to get your favorite things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I loved, was that unique handbag or that unique thing that you said. Like, and I feel like it's coming back, but it is online, and it, it's a different feeling when you can just see it in front of you and say like, that's the one that I want it.
Yeah, it's interesting though, as a collective movement of beings, young people. It's so funny because when I was young, I wanted to be different to everybody else. I really did, with and the way I could sort of communicate that was through fashion. So
Mm.
I remember my look was silk back in the 80s. I would wear a men's silk blouse, a long, like, it was a shirt, but for me it was a blouse with baggy silk pants from Bali or something, and almost brogues. That was my look in the 80s, with, don't ask me about my hair. Anyway, really bad hair and frosted pink lipstick. But that was my look. And it wasn't very body flattering. I remember people used to say, why don't you show off your body more? But it was sort of like that relaxed pajama look, but with brogues. That was my whole 80s look. No one else wore that. I was unique as the person who dressed like a sort of a boy, but in silk. Nowadays, I think everyone is trying very hard to conform and look the same. And
Yeah.
I question that. Why? I don't know. Why do people want to dress in the same designers and the same things?
That is true. I remember the same, like there was a phase like when I was really young where it was about being different, and then suddenly it was about conforming. And
Yes.
if you looked different, then it was like, oh, you're not part of our group. It was, yeah.
Do you think that's still happening now? Well, obviously it is, because people want.
I feel like people are being more unique now, but it's in groups. I
And maybe
don't.
it's more about the tattoo. Maybe
Yeah.
it's more about that permanent inking on the skin
Yeah.
than a jumpsuit in bright fuchsia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's an
It's
interesting,
fascinating.
isn't it? It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, what has been like the biggest learning curve within your business about yourself?
About myself or
Mm.
about the business?
About
About myself.
yourself through the business. So what have you learned about yourself by building a business?
Wow. I've learned that I'm more adaptable than I thought. I probably thought I was a bit more rigid, and certainly at my age, I thought I was quite rigid. I'm actually not. I'm able to pivot and change my ideas. They're not as set in stone as I thought they were at one point, which has been a good realization about myself. Um, yeah, I'm more adaptable, and I always knew I was a jack of all trades, master of none. That's been a positive and a negative in my life, because I always envied people that had this wonderful talent, one thing that they were excellent at, because I'm good at everything and excellent at nothing. But now I've learned to embrace that. That's become something that I feel empowered by, because when you run your own business, you do have to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
And you are the designer and the salesperson and the social media operator. And there are so many things that you have to do to make it get off the ground. I realize that that's an advantage rather than to my detriment.
But I feel like, but because I was the same before, I feel like that's because we were trying to force something before that didn't
Yes,
feel right. Whereas when you have that business that you love, it's just an obstacle to like overcome.
that's very true. Very true. And when you start something you're passionate about, the passion makes it not a job.
Yeah. What are your 5 top tips for somebody who wants to start a business, but they really don't know where to start?
So This is a great question, and it's one that a lot of people ask. One of the things that I always say is research. Take your time and absolutely look into every avenue of whatever business it is that you want to start. Talk to people, reach out to as many people as you can, people you don't even know, but it's easy to 6 degrees of separation. It's very easy to find people in that field. And most people, small business owners and operators, are pretty happy to talk to you about what it's going to take. So, certainly financially, how much money you need to start a business. I mean, are you starting a bag business like mine that needs working capital to get it off the ground? Or are you starting a consulting business as an interior decorator? You don't need as much working capital, but you need contacts. So, all of these things, just talk to as many people as you can and research what you need to do.
Nice.
I did that for a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And look, I didn't take all the advice that I got from people. Some people gave me advice that I took, and other people gave me advice that I sort of put away in a little compartment and revisited later. Yeah. And believe in yourself. Believe, if you really have a burning passion to do something, then don't let anyone give you any negativity about your project. Just be focused and know that that's exactly what you want to do.
Nice. And what are you most grateful for?
My daughter.
Oh.
So my daughter in my life, but I'm most grateful in my business for the wonderful women that I have met along the way. And I say that because most of the stores that I'm in are run or owned by women. And when you're a new designer and you're trying to get into a store, that's probably one of the biggest challenges. The people who run and own these stores are bombarded with new designers. So it's all about the relationship that you develop with whoever is buying for the store. And I have met some of my closest friends now through the stores. In fact, the home that I'm staying in the Hamptons is owned by a woman who has a store in Southampton called Michelle Farmer. And she was one of the women to ever take my bags into her store. And we're friends to this day. We're still really great friends. And she's become a great personal friend.
Oh, that's nice.
Really nice. Women rock. Women are the best.
Of course. I was just going to say that as you're saying that, it makes me think like, yeah, when you do create a business, it is about community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the people that you have working for you, the people who, from the manufacturers to the people that my model for my website, she's just this lovely young girl. My photographer who's this fabulous guy who's young and gives me a good deal because he's starting out and I'm starting out. And you create a community around you of that business.
Yeah.
With the promise that when you make it big, you take them on the journey with you.
Yeah. What shines your inner light?
I think reflection, constantly working on yourself. I don't know whether this is going to sound crazy, but I think your inner light is like the inner workings of your brain. It's not a muscle, but it's something that you have to work on. It's very easy to get downhearted. It's really easy to be negative. It's really easy to just say, woe is me, look at what's happening in the world and how terrible it is. It's much more difficult to wake up and see the silver linings and look at the positives. But that's the most important thing. So I feel like you can fuel your inner light with the way you use your brain. You can make it shine by having the right attitude.
Yeah. It's all about the positive mindset.
It really is. You can choose to be happy or you can choose to be unhappy.
Yeah. Just like both of us, we both had that like aha moments in our lives where we were like, right, enough is enough. What do we really want to do? What are we here to do in this world?
Yeah. And look, and don't get me wrong, I don't wake up every day going, oh, I'm so happy. I wake up every day saying happiness is a choice. And sometimes I'm miserable and I want to be miserable. I'm going to be unhappy. And then the next day I wake, don't be silly. Snap out of it, Lisa. Everything is good. This is happening. So it's a choice. It really is a choice, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for being on the show. And thank you for just sharing your story of like how far you've come and create this beautiful brand and just being your true self.
Thank you. Pleasure. I've so enjoyed chatting to you.
What an interesting episode. I just can't believe like how much waste actually goes into handbags. I never really thought about it. And it's so important about clearing the clutter. You know, we have so many things, but does it spark joy? Does it make us happy? Does it make us feel calm? And it's so important to just surround yourselves with things that make you feel abundant. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. Follow your passion. It will lead to your purpose. That's a quote by Oprah Winfrey. For more information about the show or how to trust your inner light, visit my new coaching program at gerdshandel.com. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.